Here's our first assignment this week. We're going to make a game. This game is going to have us hunting for stars or whatever it is in your case. I'm going to do mine stars. We're going to learn about variables, show and hide, and clones. So let's get started. One, I'm not going to need Mr. Cat. I did say I'm going to make mine about stars. So I'm going to get myself the good old star galaxy type background. There it is. There's the galaxy. So there's my galaxy background. Now, I'm going to use the star as my sprite. So up here I can search for star, and there it is. You can do yours any way you want, whether it's a galaxy or a star. It could be fishes in the seas. It could be almost anything you want it to be. It can be balloons, but mine's going to be the star. We're not going to have to worry about costumes or background swaps or any of that stuff, just this. Now, there is one more sprite we'll need for our game, and we'll need a sprite called Game Over. And this sprite, we're going to make ourselves. So we're going to go to Paint, and I'm going to go to Text. I'm going to change my color, I don't know, a green. That seems like a good choice. There we go, a bright green. I'm going to click in here. Make sure you're on text before you click, and I'm going to type Game Over. It's so small, but that's right, because I can stretch it bigger as I want it to be. I can line it up dead center there. So now it's lined up dead center on my thing, and that's it. Now, over here, when I'm done, I want Game Over. It's kind of hard to move them around. I want it to appear kind of right in the middle of the screen when I'm done. I'm not worried about the star, honestly, because it'll go wherever I'm going to put it, and you're going to see that. So let's get started on Mr. Star. Make sure you click on this star. If you're working inside of the Game Over sprite, then you're going to have some problems. So here it goes. I've got to set some stuff up. So events. When I start the game, I need to set variables. I'm going to have two variables, one called score and one called time. To do that, I'm going to go down to variables, and I'm going to create, and there it's kind of hard to see. It's a little white button, and it says make a variable. So I'm going to click make a variable. And my first one I'm going to call score. And my second one I'm going to make another variable called time. Oops. And you'll notice that once I made these variables, they put some little check boxes. And if you look over here, you'll see score and time are actually visible. You can actually turn them off. But with the little check boxes, I like to leave them on because that's kind of the point of this lesson. Now, our variables, when they start, I want the score to be 0. So down here, since I'm still here, there's a one that says set my variable to. I'm going to change it from my variable to score. And I'm going to set my score to 0. This assumes they've played this a couple times, so if you don't reset it, you get stuck with it. And I'm going to set my time. Now, this one here, I'm going to set time. You can make the length of the game anything you want. I'm going to set mine to 10 seconds. Actually, I'm going to set it to 5 seconds for this video. For you guys, I suggest 10 seconds. It's more fun. 5 seconds makes it happen. So let's talk about a timer. I'm going to build a timer. And yes, I'm kind of going off what's come next, and you'll see why in a moment. Let's work on the timer. Since this game is going to be time-based, when the time runs out to 0, I want the game to be over. So I need to create a timer. I'm going to use an if-else block, and that's in control. So I'm going to use an if-else, and I want that one with the lovely little, I don't know what you call that. I should, but right offhand, I don't. My operators. So my operators, when time reaches 0. So I'm going to find out, whoops, sorry, sensing. When time equals 0. So I'm going to go down here to these operators, and I've got the kind of egg-shaped equals 50. That's the one I want, but I'm going to change the 50 to 0. And I'm going to go down to variables because you'll notice the variables were egg-shaped themselves or ovals. And I'm going to put that. So when time equals 0, then I'm going to say the game is over. Now, we did this before. We did send a message, and it works pretty well. So we're going to send a message. We're going to broadcast a message, and we're going to call that message game over. So I'm going to broadcast a message called game over. Here is another unique one. Because we're going to have a bouncing star in my case, we need to make sure we stop action. So towards the bottom of control, there's a button called stop all. So we're going to put that right after broadcasting game over. Otherwise, the game is going to keep running and they'll be able to cheat it. So we need to stop things. So it's going to check for the time. If the time is 0, it's going to go on. Else, we want it to wait a second. That's how we're going to make this keep time. It's in control. We're going to wait 1 second. When 1 second's up, we're going to change the time because we start out with time is 5. So we're going to go down to our variables and we're going to change, and it up here says change my variable. We're going to change time by not +1, -1. So we're going to subtract 1 away from time. Once it does that 5 times, then it'll be 0. This will allow you to, by just getting in here and your time and setting your time up to whatever you want, you can make this game as long as you want. Now, this loop running right now, it checks it and then it goes up one. But it doesn't do it again because we'll need to stick it inside a forever loop. So we're going to put a forever loop here. We're going to stuff this inside. And I'll put those up. So that's a forever. Let's go ahead and watch our timer work. So there it is, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Bam. That's it. Nothing big and exciting yet, but we're getting there. We need to now create that star that moves around. So what we're going to do is create a clone of that star. When I say clone, what I mean is another copy. But first of all, if we're going to create another copy, we may need to make this first copy go away. And the way we do that is in looks, we go all the way down to hide. So that'll make this hide. Now we need to go down to control, and it's at the very bottom of control, is we need to create a clone of myself. It says, when it says of myself, it's literally means the clone that this is on. You can also use this to clone, as you can see, I could clone the game over one, but I don't want to clone the game over one. So creating a clone makes an exact copy of itself. We've got a clone. So this star is going to create a clone of itself. There's another button. It's not with the other events. It's only found down here at the bottom of control in the cloning. It says when I start as a clone. So when I start as a clone, before we hit it, now we need to show it. So let's go to looks and we'll show. Now that clone will show itself. But we don't want it to be all in the same place. World's most boring game. We just hold the mouse over it and just racks up points. We want to have it go to someplace unique. Now, as opposed to you having to find a new spot for it every time, there's a cool button called Go to Random Position. It's going to put that star somewhere on the board. So it'll create a clone. It'll put it in random position. Now comes the part in the game. We're going to move our mouse around, and every time the mouse touches the star, we're going to get a point, and the star is going to delete itself and recreate itself. So we're going to make a loop, and this loop is going to go basically forever. That's kind of what we got to remember is first our forever loops, because we're going to keep doing this until the time runs out. When the time runs out, it will stop everything. So it'll stop whatever is going on over here. So we need to put an if block in there. If I'm touching. So if I'm touching this star or the clone of the star, so what we go down here is to our sensing, and there's one that says, hey, if it's touching the mouse pointer, that means my mouse is over the star, then it's going to do something. Well, what's it going to do? It's going to change score. That means we got there. So we're going to change score by 1. So we're going to change the score by 1. Make sure you put that score. Change score by 1, and we need to create a new clone. Back to the bottom of control. We're going to create a new clone, and cooler, we're going to delete this clone. If you don't, you'll have multiples of them out here. You got to clean up clones. anytime you create a clone, you got to make sure you delete a clone. Okay. So let's try our game for right now. I'm gonna hit stop and I'm gonna hit go. And actually I'll put it on the bigger screen. So there it is. Every time I go over it, you'll see that the stars jump into a new spot, and I got a score of 9 with the time of 0. That annoying game over sat there the whole time. That really bothered me. Now, I do have a message called game over. So let's go to our game over sprite. When it starts, I don't want to see game over. So I'm going to go to events. And when the green flag is clicked, I want game over to hide. We used that before in looks. We want it to hide, go away and hide. Now, as soon as I get that broadcast message, so when I receive that message, we had a message called game over. Once I get that message, I just want it to show itself. I've done poorly at saving now. I'm lucky that this happened. My game is now basically done, but I haven't given it a name. So I'm going to call this one Star Search. I'm going to save it. I'm on big screen, and I'm going to try it out. I got score time. I get going. Oh, good. Boom. Well, there you know my score and my time. So I start up 5 seconds. I got an 8. Hope you do better.